I put a poll on Twitter earlier today, and I asked you, is this the best college football season you can remember? Some of you took that to mean, is this the best college football season with your specific team that you can remember? That's not what I meant. I meant the season in totality. Is it the best you can remember? My vote is yes. That's the reason I put it up there. A lot of you voted no. Some of you did the whole no and it's not close. Of course, those people failed to mention what the alternative is. If you want to say '07 is better, that's fine. If you want to say 2012 is better, that's fine. Guys, I can assure you it's close. You cannot take everything we saw this year and then point me out another season that blows it away. Maybe inches here or there. Nothing blows this season away. In fact, you were just looking, if you were watching on YouTube, at a game I had forgotten all about. We were stacking the show today, and I was trying to think of some of the games I wanted to touch on. FSU and Notre Dame was the Sunday night game in week one, or maybe even the Monday night game in week one. Do you remember how insane that was? Florida State ended up being totally off your radar by the end of the season. Notre Dame didn't make the playoff either. So you can either be a college football fan or a casual. A casual would tell you, oh, that game was meaningless because it didn't have playoff implications. Or you can be a college football fan and realize what we crystallize in this sport is the regular season. College football is about moments on Saturdays and Sundays in home stadiums. That's what the entire fabric of this sport is built on. It's why people like us, we have this very specific kind of love for it, and we look at it through a different lens than we do the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. Make no mistake, we watch those sports, we watch those leagues, we just don't watch it through the same lens. Because this sport that we love, called college football, is uniquely constructed. It's why we don't look and say, college football's postseason should look exactly like the NFL. College football's regular season and the way we handle game day should look exactly like the NFL. No, it shouldn't. The NFL can do the NFL, college football can do college football, and you can love the Saturday and Sunday product for different reasons in some cases. It is allowed. But we're coming off what we called a Renaissance season from the very beginning. And actually, now that we've gone all 16 weeks, we've been on the road 16 weeks. If you look at the list of the places that we've been going all the way back to week one, where it was Georgia versus Clemson in Charlotte and wrapping up last night in Indianapolis, again with Georgia against Alabama, I'll be able to talk about this year for a long time. You're watching, if you're on YouTube, and you're seeing the screen over to, I guess it's my left, your right, or my right, your left. Look at that list of games. Look at where we were able to go and take the Renaissance Tour this year. Started in Charlotte in week one, Iowa at Iowa State, my first trip to Ames in week two, first ever whiteout experience, Auburn at Penn State in week three. This is why the regular season is so great. This is why we preach the gospel of the regular season on this show. By the end of the year, were you talking about Auburn? Not a whole lot. Were you talking about Penn State? Not a whole lot. There are just flat out two different ways you can view this sport. You can either freeze that moment in time. Week three, Auburn at Penn State, one possession game, awesome battle, Saturday night, Happy Valley, 110 some odd thousand people up there, whiteout. You can either remember it that way, or you can be a sadist who looks at it and says, oh well, no playoff implications, meaningless game. Like, which camp does it sound like you'd rather be a part of? We move on. Week four gets here. And that's when we go to Arlington. And that's when it's Arkansas upsetting Texas A&M. And all of a sudden, Arkansas has taken down the Longhorns and the Aggies in the first month of the season. You can either be one of two ways. You can either say, those are two historic wins, and Arkansas got both of them over those teams when those teams still had a ton of life. Or you can say, oh, no playoff implications. Texas ended up not being a bowl team. Which camp does it sound like you should be a part of? Had Ole Miss at Alabama. That one was one of the more convincing Alabama wins of the year, but look at where we were the next week. For my money, this was the most incredible regular season game I was able to see. OU versus Texas. Don't think about where the teams finished. Think in terms of regular season moments on Saturdays. That was Red River. That was Texas up 28-10. That was Oklahoma storming back. That was Caleb Williams coming in for Spencer Rattler. That was an all-time performance. It was as good as college football gets. It popped an insane number. It was the 11 a.m. kickoff, so you get out of Dallas the same day. That day was as what just fell? It's got to happen at least once a show now. That day in Dallas, was as perfect a poster of college football as you could ever see. Then again, I could say that about week 3 with Auburn at Penn State too. How about the following week? Not exactly the promotional poster for college football that you want to put together. Ole Miss at Tennessee, just bobbing and weaving, ducking to the left and right. There comes a bottle here. There comes a bottle there. There goes a golf ball. Good, it hit Lane Kiffin, not me. It was unique. It was a very unique experience. And then Tennessee almost ends up winning the game anyway. Tennessee goes to Bama the next week. Not exactly a memorable game there. But the back half of the season got so fun because the weather cooled off, but the rivalry games were approaching, and all of a sudden, we get to venture up into Big Ten country a little bit more. We saw Mel Tucker and Michigan State take down Michigan. We saw Michigan rebound later in the year to take down Ohio State. We saw so many big-time moments, and see, the beauty to me in not being an expansionist is that I understood, as did we all, there was no giant 12-team playoff safety net under these games. And so that's, to me, what makes them awesome. How about multiple field stormings, though? We got one in East Lansing when Michigan State beat Michigan. We got one 2 weeks later in Waco when Oklahoma fell to Baylor. And then you go to Michigan a couple of weeks after that, and we get another one in the driving snow when Ohio State falls to Michigan. It was such an incredible way to cap the season. And then, of course, we go into Conference Championship Saturday. Then you got a trip to Miami for the semifinal game. We went to Indianapolis for the national championship game. College football is all about a few things for us on this show. It's about tradition, it's about atmosphere, it's about Saturdays, and it's about moments. It's okay to view pro sports through a different lens than college football. If I could change one thing right now about the way that too many people are viewing the sport, it's I wish I could just adjust your lens for you and remind you what you once knew if you're of any age. And that is, before the whole playoff era, everything about the regular season was maximum in its importance. Everything about the regular season was crystallized. You never had to remind anyone. College football is about tradition, atmosphere, and Saturday moments. We woke up every day of the week knowing it. But now all of a sudden, you got OU Texas in a classic. You got Auburn Penn State early in the year in a classic, and they're forgotten because you may not get the right semifinal matchup you want, or you may not get a close score in a title game. It's like, when did we get to this tail wagging the dog situation in college football where the importance or the value of a season is not defined until the last 2 or 3 games in a man-made postseason format? How about forget it entirely? Like, do what we do on this show. You look at the B-roll we're rolling right now. I can assure you, none of this comes from a playoff situation. This is regular season. This is on a Saturday. These are moments. Baylor didn't make the playoff. Does it look like those people are any less excited? Does it look like that memory is going to fade anymore because Baylor ended up not making the playoff? That was an insane afternoon in Waco. It was an insane afternoon to watch Michigan take down Ohio State. It was an insane afternoon to watch Michigan State take down Michigan. And some of us love the sport because of that. And then whatever the playoff gives us is what the playoff gives us. But I really hate that I woke up yesterday morning and I'm in the JW Marriott in downtown Indianapolis, and we got an entire gaggle of reporters doing their job. I'll grant you that. But the day ends up turning into a whole bunch of hodgepodge of, are we going to expand the playoff? Well, the commissioners have emerged from this mysterious room they were gathered in under lock and key. Are we going to get one? No, we're not going to get one. All right, well, let's start typing out stories about how this is a letdown for college football. Dude, we got a national championship in 4 or 5 hours. We got all of February and March and April and May and June and July to talk about this. That's what I didn't like. In an otherwise very, very fun afternoon, that's what I didn't like. But overall, I just wish this time of year was viewed in the proper context. It's not the end-all, be-all. Sure, we're going to crown a champion. College football's regular season value and the value of this Renaissance season we just had wasn't impacted one iota in my mind by what we saw in the playoff. I could have seen Bama win 50-0 or Georgia win 50-0 last night. It's not removing the value of what I saw from what I think is the greatest regular college football season we've seen in a generation. And I want to tell you one more thing too. This is just from us to you. It's hard for me to put into words what a privilege it is to be able to do what we do. I know I thank you a lot, but there's a reason I thank you a lot. It's because we weren't always here. I wasn't always here. I was right there with you. The only difference in me and you is we convinced a company to put a mic in front of me and somehow put my face on TV. Otherwise, I'm you. I worked in a fabric warehouse for a long time. I paid every last dime that was in my pocket, and in some cases, dimes I didn't have, to buy tickets to these games. I watched the shows. I listened to the radio every day. I know what it's like to do something other than this for a living and to use this as an escape. That's why we format this show the way we do. That's why we let you drive it the way we do. I know some of you don't have the most fun job in the world. I didn't. Again, non-air conditioned warehouse, stacking rolls of fabric all day, pulling them off the freight truck when it comes in the morning, looking forward to listening to a few sports talk radio shows to get me through the day. I know that's the situation some of you are in. The reason I thank you so much is because you let us be the conduit. You actually allow us, you allow me, of all people, and our staff and our crew here, of all the groups of people in the world and all the products out there, you let us be your escape. We don't take it for granted. We will never take it for granted. And I relate with you. And that's why I hope it comes through on the show. And it's why I never get tired of going to city after city. We've been on the road 16 weeks in a row. Every single city we went to, as the weeks went on, we heard from more and more of you. And to a 95% clip, what you said to me is, I appreciate that the show's different, and I appreciate that I can relate to the show. That means that we're doing the job we're trying to do. All we're trying to do is put you on this screen and take the emotions and the way you feel about this sport and hopefully be able to verbalize it and be able to present it in a video form or a podcast form to where it's the best part of your day. Maybe you got a job you love. Maybe you got a job you hate. We want this to be at least a 30 or 45-minute escape for you every day. But I want to just personally thank you, because this right here is getting to do a literal dream job for a living every single day. That's why we'll never complain. It's a privilege to go on the road 16 weeks in a row. Are you kidding? I'd rather be traveling 16 weeks in a row than just going to the same place that I don't want to be at every day. I've done both of them. I can assure you I prefer this. So thank you so much. You have made this show such a success, they can't say no to us. I mean, I talked to one of our executives last week, and he said, look, even if I didn't like the show, which I do, but even if I didn't like it, we can't tell you no. We can't tell the audience no. It keeps getting bigger and bigger every week. That's you. That's not us. We could sit here and talk to crickets all day and not get anything. You have made that possible. And so I just wanted to wrap the regular season and this postseason with thanking you. I met a lot of you in Indianapolis over the past week, met a lot of you throughout the year. I also want to tell you this. There are a whole lot of people in our industry at all kind of different networks that come up to me. And in some cases, they've got much bigger platforms than we do, but they look at the freedom that to their credit, CBS gives us and 24/7 gives us, and they say, man, I'm envious of that. And I would feel the same way. Full disclosure, I would feel the same way, because we have all the freedom to do this show exactly how we want to do it, and we've got the trust instilled in us to do the show exactly how we want it, and the way we want it is the way you want it. And we plan on keeping it that way no matter how big the show gets. So I wanted to wrap it up with that. Thank you so much for letting us do what we love for a living, and I hope it gets you through whatever you may be going through in any given day.